Heim gets spun just past the checkered flag. I think Austin Dillon. Let's look at it. It may be the 5. Hold on. Well, let's have a look at the video. Uh-oh, Busher is ahead. Larson is coming. It's like the Kentucky Derby. Oh, it's that close. It's Larson.
Holy cow.
My goodness, what a classic finish. It seems like every episode I throw in that I love Kansas and the track, and my goodness, this race I think was better than even the last couple there at Kansas. My goodness, what a phenomenal finish. What a phenomenal race. I can't say enough good things. The closest finish in NASCAR history as Kyle Larson edges out Chris Buescher by like 1/1000th of a second. My pick to win, I went with a favorite this week. I picked Kyle Larson to win it, and he does it. You just watch that race, and I'm honestly kind of speechless. But I thought, I really wanted to get an episode in tonight because how could you not? I had to after Atlanta with the 3 wide crazy finish. And I didn't see why not again tonight. I mean, just ecstatic. NASCAR fan base is buzzing. The NASCAR community is buzzing. And let's just go to 1.5 miles every week with this next gen car. Let's just make a deal to do that. If we're gonna keep the next gen and not switch to the Xfinity car in Cup, let's just go to 1.5 miles every week. Might mix in one road course, one a short track every once in a while. I mean, obviously you have to have variety, but my goodness, the 1.5 miles, especially Kansas, delivers every single time with this next gen car. And I'm getting into this. So sorry if you hear background noise. It's me clapping my hands because I think this was. I mean, I said it going into it that I thought this had once again the potential to be the best race of the season, and it delivers again. And the good news is NASCAR goes back in September for the playoffs. So will it be this insane? I doubt it. Will the racing be amazing? Yes, 100%. I have no doubt. I don't think it'll come down to a 1/1000th margin of victory, but I think it'll be just as good, the racing, up until the finish. So, man, I'm so glad. I had to work today earlier in the day, and I was so bummed that, I was going to have to miss some of the race at Kansas because Kansas is my favorite track. And, the weather helped me. I got off work at 5 o'clock today, and the race didn't start till about 6:30. I had time to get home, settle in with the boys, and turn it on and get to watch the whole thing. So it was awesome from start to finish. I mean, there was racing going on from the moment they dropped the green flag. I mean, it was nothing. You could not ask for more in a NASCAR race than what we got. You had a long green flag runs. You had several cautions that mounted up after the first caution. And then, of course, the amazing finish, the different tire strategies. It was almost a fuel mileage race before that last caution by Kyle Busch. But, it ended up not being fuel mileage. Some people took 2 tires. Some people took 4. 2 ended up being the right call, even though it didn't work out for some, a la Denny Hamlin. I talked about that as my dog scratches himself because, of course, he does. He hasn't done it all day, but of course he does now that I have the microphone out and am recording. But as I was saying, it didn't work out for some of the guys. Denny Hamlin being one of them, restarted first, ends up finishing 5th. Still wish he would have picked the outside. He said that in his interview. I thought that was the move when it happened that he should have done. But either way, it led to a absolutely insane finish. You could not ask for more. If anybody finds anything bad to say about this race, I'm going to start to question your NASCAR fandom, to be honest with you. I thought it was that good, to be honest. It had everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you now, this race is a 10 for me. I thought it was that good. I thought this would be the first ever. I think this is the first ever 10. I might have gave Atlanta a 10 just because if I did, y'all have to remind me of that. I don't remember. But either this is the first or second ever 10, and it's just because I mean, this was a better race than Atlanta. It was a better finish than Atlanta. I think this moves to a firm number one race of the season, and I think it's up there in the best of all time, just because of the passes, the constant passing, and then of course the insane finish. The finish will live on in infamy forever. You know, it was so close that NASCAR thinks one guy wins, and then you go back and look at the replay, and it's the other guy. I mean, it was insane. But I will say, when it was all happening in real time, I was confused as to why they scored Busher first. I thought it was clear that Larson beat him across the line, but then you look at the slow motion replay, and it's like, whoa, man, that's too close to call almost. But I will say, Larson, I think NASCAR made the right call. I know Busher's team was upset, as anyone would be that finished close, but finished second by that close of a margin. I mean, you'd have to be upset. But NASCAR did make the right call. Kyle Larson was the winner there without a doubt. Once you go back and look at the replay, I was just I think everyone was perplexed about, first of all, I usually do race recaps, and I'm still going to do race recap, but I would be stupid to not start off by talking about that finish. The move that Kyle Larson made when Chris Buescher got in front of him. I mean, Buescher ran the middle of the track in 3 and 4, but I don't think that he assumed that he left a lane on the high side for Larson to get there, because there's no way, if I was in that situation, that I would think that lane was there, because there had to be an inch total between Larson and Buescher's car on the left side, and then maybe less than an inch between Larson's right side and the fence. I mean, it was crazy, the hole that he fit his car into. And he just did a phenomenal job, and he closed it out. They banged fenders down the front stretch to the line, and just made for a phenomenal finish. But the skill that it takes for a guy like Larson to, or for anybody, but especially Kyle Larson, one of the best drivers in the field, to make that move, the guts it takes, and I honestly can't believe he pulled it off. I thought once Buescher got in front of him, it was going to be so hard for anybody to get past the leader. That's why I really wanted Denny to pick the outside, because I thought, if he clears, then it's going to be tough for anybody to pass him. But and I'll say right now, I called Larson winning and Denny finished second. If it was Denny in Buescher's position, I would look like a genius right now. As much as it would stink to lose by that close of a margin, but if I really did call Larson and Denny 1-2, that would be crazy. But I knew Larson was due, folks. I mean, they bring arguably the fastest. It's him, Denny, and Byron. We've talked about this multiple times this year. They all bring the fastest cars to the track every week, it seems like, and Larson's due to beat Denny when they finish 1-2 at least a couple times in his career, because Denny's won every single one of them. So Larson gets it done tonight. I mean, if you're a Kyle Larson fan, I'm sure that had to be one of the most exhilarating races of all time. It reminded me of, as a Denny fan, and if anybody can relate to this, if you're a Kurt Busch or Ricky Craven fan, or even Suarez. If you're a Suarez fan, the battle earlier this year, if you win by that close of a margin, it's a little bit sweeter than if you go out and just kick tail all day. So, awesome for all the Kyle Larson fans that listen. I know I've got several, that get on me when I talk about Denny and Larson battling, but I respect both guys. I think both of them are at the top of their game right now. You see that, I feel like, every single week. So they always have good battles. This time it was Buescher and Larson, and Kyle Larson comes out on top. So shout out to Kansas, as always, and a shout out to NASCAR for putting on a great race. So now we'll get into the race review. But I mean, I would, like I said, I would be stupid not to talk about the insane finish right off the bat. So Let's get into the Kansas notes. The day started off, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. The weather delayed the start of the race, which I thought kind of made the racing better. I mean, sure, with the sun beaming down on the track temp would get hotter, more lanes, but I thought it worked out really well the way that it worked out. Starting later was definitely a good thing, I feel like, for multiple reasons. Starting out, Ross Chastain and Kyle Larson are battling for the lead right off the bat. Um, it was Ross and Seabell for a minute, but then it quickly transitioned to Ross and Kyle Larson. And once again, I picked Ross Chastain for my fantasy team, my fantasy thing that we pick a driver every week. And once I saw Chastain qualify second and lead some laps, I just kept thinking in my mind, how is this race going to go wrong for him? And then he ran top 5, top 10 all race long until, until all these cautions start happening. His strategy mounted him in the back. I think he brought it home 22nd. So, he ran top 10 both stages. Got me some points, but it's once again, it's just a lost cause at this point. It's guaranteed. I don't think I've had, I can't think right off the bat. Maybe one week I picked Bowman, he finished in the top 10, but it has been unreal how bad that I've been at that. My first year doing it, I can sit here and crank out race winners all day long, but when you are stuck getting the 15th to 20th pick, it's kind of hard to make up points. So that's the situation I'm in there. I got excited when Ross was running up there all day just for that purpose. But he ends up bringing it home, I think, like 22nd. So once again, not a good fantasy day for me. And then Denny Hamlin wins stage 1, goes on to extend his streak with now 16 straight races with at least one lap led. Just an insane streak. I touched on it last week, but the dynamic of that is just honestly crazy to me. 16 straight races where you have led one lap or at least a lap. It's just crazy. So, the more he expands on that, the more proud I'll be, the more happier I'll be, the more I'll think that, the championship is a real possibility this year for the 11 team. And, with Darlington coming up, one of his best tracks, there's no reason why he can't extend it to 17. Ross Chastain and Christopher Bell battled for the lead off of pit road. Ross won it by like a millimeter. His pit crew did a good job getting him off pit road. And Denny Hamlin, talked about him a little earlier. Denny just had pit road woes all day long. This first time, it really wasn't the pit crew itself. It was other stuff on pit road. The first time Austin Hill comes into his box as the last car on the lead lap, and Denny's going to pull out while Austin Hill's coming in, has to completely stop pulling out of its box in order to not hit Austin Hill's pit crew members. Slows him way down. I think he lost like 10 spots there. And that was like it every time. It wasn't, it was just crazy things happening. Denny would get up to 3rd, 4th, and then he would drop back to 11th or 12th and have to work his way back up. It was like that all day long. So hated to see that for him, of course. And then I want to take a minute. The move of the race, besides, it would have been the move of the race any other race except this one. But Chris Buescher's move to take it 5 wide that was insane. If you go back and watch that replay, folks, and if you watch the race, you already know what I'm talking about. But I think it was Christopher Bell, Joey Logano, Chris Buescher, Ty Gibbs, and I'm missing someone, maybe Martin Truex. I'm not sure, but if you go back and watch this replay, the gap that Chris Buescher goes right through in between Chastain and Bell was absolutely insanity. Buescher had a move like this at Talladega a couple weeks ago. He's definitely showing that he belongs in the Cup Series. I know he won several races last year, but as far as just racecraft and making moves in the race, he's becoming more and more of a factor for sure. I thought that move was insanity. Kyle Larson has pit road issues with the left front tire. They couldn't get the lug nut off. No, I think it was they couldn't get to stay on. They had to readjust it, tighten it. Lost him several spots, and then Chris Buescher goes on to win stage 2. So good for that team. Fords have struggled this year. We've put that, and I think that's another reason why Chris Buescher was so bummed after the races. Fords have been not the best for sure. So it was another chance for them to get another win, or to get their first win of the year, I should say, but just came up short. After he wins the second stage, Chris Buescher penalized men over the wall too soon. I went back and looked at it. It looked like one of the tire carriers jumped over the wall before Buescher got in the stall. So Buescher had to go all the way to the back, and looked like his race was over. But then, you start getting these cautions, and we'll get into who all was involved in them. But um, you know, uh, Denny and Buescher both pitted there, and it ended up helping them in the long run. But um, they flipped the strategy, so we'll get into that. But then the Jimmy Johnson wreck. Jimmy qualified 19th. I felt like he was doing a better job, running better for sure. But once again is involved in the wreck and finishes way back in the field. It looked like Jimmy saw tire smoke up ahead of him, checked up, and LaJoy slammed in the back of him, wrecked them both. Plus, Austin Hill was involved. I really don't know who's at fault here. I wasn't. I mean, it just looked like a confusing situation. I don't know why Jimmy lifted so much and kind of slammed on the brakes, but also don't know why Corey couldn't have missed him. I guess Corey just wasn't expecting that to happen. But it's a pretty big hit for Jimmy. Corey and Austin Hill were able to continue on. And then a big wreck between Austin Cindric, Bubba Wallace, and Michael McDowell happened on the restart after the Jimmy wreck. At first, I thought it was Joey Logano's fault, but I think it was just racing. The restarts at Kansas are just insanity. So Seabell and Denny were racing, and then it looked like Logano made it 3 wide. Austin Cindric was on the top of Denny and Seabell, and it just looked like Denny ran out of racetrack, had to lift, and when he did that, Austin Cindric was there. Cindric gets in the back of Denny, bounces off the fence, and then collects Michael McDowell and Bubba Wallace also. So, Bubba's, he finished the race. The damage was bad, but it wasn't bad enough for him to record a DNF. He's been on a little bit of a down streak, I would say. But him and McDowell both were able to involve. Austin Cindric was out of the race. After that, like I said, breed cautions. Another wreck. Harrison Burton looks like he just loses it, spins by himself. That leads to a caution. And then we've got Joey Logano and Chase Briscoe. It looked like Briscoe kind of, I don't really know if he took away Logano's line or what happened, but anyway, Joey has to lift, ends up wrecking, spinning through the grass, and flattening all 4 of his tires. So he's stuck, ends up losing several laps. Logano was running pretty decent. Best he had ran in a while, honestly, like just off pure speed, it felt like. And just ruined his day for sure. And then this is where we go to the differing strategies. Like I said, the differing strategies where, Denny and Buescher kind of got mounted in the back anyway, because Buscher's penalty and Denny just kept losing track position on restarts for whatever reason. Their crew chiefs decided to bring them in and earlier than everybody else. And then once all these cautions happened, the whole field had to come in. So then Denny, Todd Gilliland, and Chris Buescher jumped the field, and they restart 1, 2, 3 on what was going to be the last restart up until the caution with about 4 to go. So then that puts Chris Buescher and Denny Hamlin in the driver's seat. They were questioning. Both of them were questioning whether they had enough fuel to make it. I guess we'll never know if they did, but Martin Truex was also on the prowl before the caution came out. I honestly think Truex would have caught Denny. I don't know if Denny saved enough gas. I definitely don't think Buescher did, because he had backed way, way down. And I don't even know if Larson had enough either, because it looked like he had kind of slowed up too. But all these different strategies made the race even more interesting. It was interesting without that. But I mean, that for a NASCAR fanatic like myself, you throw strategy in, fuel mileage in, I'm all in no matter what kind of race it is. So that just added to the greatness of this race. But it was going to work out, maybe. But like I said, we'll never know. Denny led from that restart on with 4 to go. He led the whole race. So the question would have been, would he have saved enough fuel? I lean no. But he might have. I think it was going to come down to him and Martin for sure. Martin Truex was catching him very, very quickly, but just didn't get a chance for that to come to fruition because Kyle Busch self spins with, I think it was either 6, it might have been 6 to go. I said 4 to go. I think it was 6 to go. Kyle Busch, I don't know. I still don't know what happened. I mean, you never see a guy of his caliber make that kind of mistake, so it was very confusing. But at the same time, it wouldn't have helped him out at all unless they knew for sure he was going to run out of fuel. But just a wild yellow for sure with 4 to go. But and then that leads to the greatest finish in NASCAR history. I'm not even gonna. I didn't think Atlanta could be topped earlier this year, and then this happens. I mean, it was just absolute insanity, but awesome insanity. It was. I struggle to find words because it was just so insane. Um, I broke it down a little bit in the opening, but um, just the move, the guts that it took Kyle Larson to pull the move on the outside there. And if I'm Chris Buescher, I'm extremely defeated because you had a chance to take away that high line. But at the same time, I go back and I'm like, there's no way Larson could fit in that hole that I left him. I'm running the middle of the track. There's no way that car's going to fit where Larson eventually puts it, and it fits, and he gets beat by a millimeter, if that. So I know, I know Buescher was upset after the race, and you couldn't help but be. So hated it for the 17. I like Buescher. He's a really good race car driver and a nice guy. But I picked Larson to win. Obviously, thought that was going to happen. I didn't expect it to happen by 1/1000th of a second, but I thought Larson. I touched on this earlier too. He brings one of the fastest cars every week. This is not the last time you're going to see him in victory lane this year. That's not a very bold prediction, but yeah, you could see him back-to-back weeks. He could go win at Darlington. That's one of his best tracks, is Darlington. So could we see another Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson 1-2 finish? Absolutely, we could. Absolutely. That wouldn't shock me at all. It's both their best tracks, and William Byron. You throw Byron up there, the 3 best guys this year. That's one of their best tracks. So, Byron won it last year, finished second the year before that. So you're going to have to go through him probably. But Larson also won here in the playoff race last year. Denny arguably should have won that race. Pit road problems cost him that one. So I think you got guys that are really good there at Darlington that are going to be factors as always. But we'll see. I wanted to bring Jax on to grade the throwbacks because that's one thing that he's talked about doing. We did that last year. And he wanted to do that. So I'll have to maybe post on my Facebook page or something what Jax ends up picking because I know a lot of people loved that last year. He's already asleep. But, the only thing about that is they haven't posted. I've saw some posted, but Denny's hasn't leaked yet. I saw Martin Truex's. I don't think Ty Gibbs has released one yet. Seabell did. There's several that all the Hendrick cars have. All theirs are awesome. I feel like so far Kyle Larson's is the best. That the Terry Labonte cornflakes car with Kyle Larson. I thought they were going to do it last year. They ended up going with the Tony Stewart car, which was awesome too. The blue with the flames, but the Terry Labonte cornflakes car has been there for years. I've waited and waited. They finally done it. I think Hendrick is really crushing the throwback game this year. Bowman throwing back to Jimmy Johnson, Lowe's car. Byron throwing back to the old Gordon car. And Chase throwing back to Dale Jr. And, of course, Larson to Terry Labonte. So just awesome. I love Darlington Throwback Weekend. I'll work again on Sunday, and it's Mother's Day, so got to fit the Mother's Day traditions in there. speaking of Mother's Day, I want to take a minute to shout out all the mothers in my life and say thank you all, but especially my mother. Um, I love you and thank you for all you have done and continue to do in my life. I'm super thankful for you, and you're the best mom in the world. I don't tell you that enough, but I truly mean it. And I love you and thank you for raising me as a NASCAR fan. Thank you for um, getting me into NASCAR and understanding how much I love it. And it's all because of you. So I love you, and I hope you have an awesome Mother's Day. I can't wait to spend time with you and hopefully watch the race at Darlington with you next Sunday on Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day, Mom. I love you bunches. Um, Now, on a complete different note, getting a little emotional there. I'm sure she'll get emotional when she hears that. But um, you know, I think Darlington is always a great race. I mean, the Ricky Craven, Kurt Busch classic finish happened at Darlington. It's always fun. It's incredibly challenging. But before we move on to Darlington, I want to take a second. The truck race at Kansas was pretty awesome. I thought it was really good. My prediction didn't do as good as I thought it would. Honestly, Rajah he wasn't a factor hardly at all. Honestly, which was really shocking. I expected him to end up at victory lane, but Corey Haim just continues his dominance. He's got to win the title this year, and I think he will. Uh, because I think this is the last year in the truck series for him. If I were guessing, he's been too good. He should have won the title last year before he got wrecked by Hocevar. But Corey Haim just put it all together. Daniel Dye, my good buddy, who continues to impress me this year, and only his second season. I think he's like 1 point out of the playoffs right now. Had another top 10 run at Kansas. The 43 is going to be a factor as the year goes on. I'm telling you, he's running way too good to not be. You look up, he's in the top 10 almost every week. He qualifies top 10, top 5. Even got a pole at Atlanta earlier this year. And so watch out for the 43. Now we move on to Darlington. Well, I keep getting ahead of myself. Let's go over our notable finishers as we do every week here on JD Talks NASCAR. Uh, you know, Good finishes. Chris Buescher, you could say second. I'm sure he doesn't want to hear that's a good finish after he was so close. Chase Elliott got it up to third after not being much of a factor all day. Martin Truex fourth. I want to shout out to Christopher Bell, who finally has defeated the bad luck. Hopefully, the last 4 weeks have been absolutely dreadful for him. He gets the pole and brings it home sixth. Alex Bowman seventh. I could have said Denny fifth, but he he's had such a good year. I mean, top 5 is kind of just meh. Kyle Busch eighth. Noah Gragson ninth. Man, I can't continue. Like I continue to say and vouch for Noah. You all are seeing how good of a driver Noah is. He qualifies third and runs up in the top 10 all day long. He's very consistent. He's doing all the right things. I would love for him to make the playoffs. With that point penalty he got at the beginning of the year, it's going to be hard. But he continues to run top 10, top 5 consistently. This is 2 weeks in a row now with a top 10. So shout out Noah Gragson. Michael McDowell, after his spin, brings it home 10th. Keselowski 11th. John Hunter Nemechek up there in 13th. Todd Gilliland 14th. Josh Berry 15th. Justin Haley. Shout out to Justin Haley for Rick Rowe Racing. 18th. He's a super good driver. Now we go to the disappointing. I thought William Byron, who, before he got into the wall in practice, had the fastest car of the weekend. He could have definitely been a factor, but he started 36th. Couldn't make much of his day at all. Brings it home 23rd. Daniel Suarez 27th. He was struggling all day long. Couldn't keep it on the lead lap. Ty Gibbs ran great, and I think he ran out of fuel or thought he was going to. Brings it home 32nd. Joey Logano with his issues, 34th. Harrison Burton, 36th. Austin Cindric, obviously in an incident, 37th. And then Jimmy Johnson, 38th. So now we've got a weekend where all 3 series are at Darlington. Trucks Friday, Xfinity Saturday, and Cup on Sunday. So we love that. More racing for us to see. Darlington, the trucks at 7:30 on Friday night. Um, you know, I haven't seen all the throwbacks. Daniel has a cool one throwing back to Kyle Petty in his peak truck. I really liked seeing that. I'm not sure if any Cup guys are running trucks. I lean no, but I'm not 100% positive on that. Let's see. Who do I want? So I'm down to Corey Heim and Christian Eckes. I feel like those are definitely your two favorites to win the truck championship this year. I'm going to go Eckes. Since Heim just won at Kansas, I think Christian Eckes gets it done at Darlington. It's going to be a challenge for anyone. If a Cup guy races, I just feel like it's hard to pick a Cup guy. I mean, it would be the obvious choice to pick a Cup guy, but I feel like that's just a gimme. And then we go to Xfinity at Darlington. I haven't heard if Denny's running. Denny usually runs this race in the Xfinity car, but I haven't heard of a deal coming together to get him to be honest with you. So I don't know if that's happening or not. I remember Denny saying last year after he won the Xfinity race at Darlington that he wanted to go out on a high note with a win. If Denny does end up racing, I'm obviously picking Denny. If Kyle Larson ends up racing at Darlington, I'm going to take them. They haven't released the entries yet. But if not, I'm taking Sheldon Creed. Um, you know, I hear all the time, you pick Sheldon all the time. He still hasn't won. He's due. He's really good at Darlington. I'm a Sheldon Creed fan. I've liked him ever since he won the truck title in 2020. He's due. He's beyond due. He should have multiple wins in the Xfinity Series. So if those Cup guys that I mentioned do not race, I haven't heard on either one of them. But if they don't, give me Sheldon Creed to win at Darlington. Now, Cup side, man, this is a hard race to pick a winner. But excuse me, I'm still fired up. I mean, you've got your three. I think it's Kyle Larson, William Byron, and Denny Hamlin against the field. That's how I look at it. I think that's how we're going to look at a lot of races this year, especially your just normal tracks. But at Darlington, I think it's going to take a guy that's experienced, but a guy that's quick also. And I actually think, and this is going to shock some people. I think, he hasn't won here in a while. He was super good here in the Gen 6 car, but hasn't been the greatest in the next gen. I'm going Martin Truex Jr. to win at Darlington. I think you got to have some experience, and I can't just sit here and pick Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin every week. I mean, I guess I could, but I think you all would get bored with that. So I'm going Martin Truex Jr. I think he gets it done at Darlington and wins his first race of the year. It would not shock me if Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, and William Byron finish 1, 2, 3. I'm just telling you right now. That's how. I mean, they have been that good all year long. But in order to win at Darlington, you've got to have good pit stops. You've got to have good pit crew decisions or crew chief decisions. You've got to have a good driver. You've got to stay off the wall. You've got to stay out of trouble and manage your race. So I like Martin Truex Jr. to win at Darlington. And that's Sunday at 3 o'clock on Mother's Day. Like I said, can't wait to see all the throwback schemes this weekend from the trucks, Xfinity Series, and Cup. Darlington's one of my favorite races of the year also just because of that. I like the racing too, but to see the awesome paint schemes is definitely one of my favorites as well. So, we're just over a year into this, and I think we've broke down the best race of this podcast so far. There's been good ones. There has been good ones in this next gen car. All of them mostly at mile and a half. You had the Atlanta Super Speedway one, but I go back to Charlotte last year was really good. I was in person for that one. Charlotte, the first year of the next gen, was one of the best races of all time. I didn't get to break that one down. I hadn't started yet, but it was just we've had a good ride, and I can't wait to see where it takes us. This has been super fun. Just getting on here. The first thought after watching that is, man, I can't wait to talk about this with everybody on the podcast. Like, I can't wait to hear what everybody's going to say, what everybody's going to think of this episode, and here we are. So I told you all last week, I think it was, we just talked about me saving the post race episodes for epic races. And I don't know if you're going to get one better than this year. So I had to get this out there for you all to digest. So if you're on your way to work on Monday morning, thank you so much. Hope you all have a great day. And if you're listening tonight when this comes out, y'all are real ones. I know some of you all have asked me to record, and you all don't know how much that means to me, that you all care that much. So shout out to everyone for telling me to get on it and record. I knew I had to do it anyway just because of how awesome the race was. But the fact that people want that and want my opinion on things, as always, means the world to me. So thank you all for that. And, until next week where we're breaking down Darlington, this has been JD Talks NASCAR. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube as well. And we leave this week with Kyle Larson winning by 1/1000th of a second over Chris Buescher at Kansas. So let's just, like I said at the beginning of the episode, let's just race Kansas every week or mile and a halfs every week, and we'll be totally good with that. Thank you all, as always, for listening. This has been JD Talks NASCAR.